Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Dual Blades talk. Today we have something pretty clever. A double setup for 4 blades instead of just 2. This concept has you running both blast and paralysis at the same time, thanks to the simple fact that we can swap between 2 weapons mid-hunt, and so you can extremely benefit from both statuses. The idea is really easy too. You just swap off your blast setup after say 4 or 5 procs in a hunt, and then begin running your paralysis setup right after that. But you might be wondering, why do that? Is it really worth it? The reason it's not just viable to double Artian dual blades and swap between them, and how it's actually better than running one status or the other, is because monsters build up resistance to the statuses that you're triggering every time that it triggers. Their threshold goes up, so once you've done a handful of blasts, it actually gets harder and harder to trigger the next blast. So we can abuse that by swapping between them and getting way more value out of both. This is a database website called Deco, and this is arkveld's information, showing you poison, paralysis, and blast, and the numbers for the status build-up. So in the case of arkveld, we've got poison, 150 plus 100, and that caps at 550. So this just means that at the start of the hunt, his poison status threshold is 150. So you need to deal 150 poison status to trigger the poison. So as you're attacking with your status weapon, you're building that up. Some of your attacks will trigger that poison. And then once you've poisoned him, the threshold gains 100, becoming 250 in this case. So it's like 80% harder to actually poison him now. Then after the second time you proc poison, he gets another 100, getting closer to that cap, repeating this process until we reach the cap. And then he stays at that until he's dead. Basically, the first poison is not too hard, the second one's harder, the third one's a lot harder, the fourth one's a lot harder, and every following poison super hard after that. So when you're looking at arkveld's paralysis and especially blast blight numbers, you can see that blast is super front loaded in its damage, designed to even out over the course of a hunt. So considering blast for arkveld is only 70 to proc the first time, and then it only increases by 30 compared to like 100 of poison, it's actually really easy to get the first proc, and then the second, even the third. You can do this a good 4 or 5 times at least in pretty decent time, but at that stage the resistance will have built up. So that's when you're going to swap to your paralysis dual blades and start from the beginning with those procs. In that case, the first paralysis will trigger at 180 and go up by 130. So 2 paralysis procs is probably the maximum you'd go for before you swap back to blast, because there's actually a decay, meaning the blast resistance while you're on paralysis started to recover, making it easier to proc blast again. So this results in a pretty incredible way to maximize how good status is with raw thanks to the Artian weapons, and an actual reason to run 2 dual blade setups in a smooth way. For this, we absolutely need to give Josh his credit for coming up with this build concept, obviously picking the armor set and the skills to achieve what we're looking for, and doing the math to actually back it up. Before we get into the build, there's something that I would like to highlight just as a really important detail to know as a dual blades player, and that is the fact that archdemon has an incredibly effective combo for triggering your corrupted mantle procs. So let me explain. Now we've filled the demon gauge, we go into archdemon, and then you'll often do demon flurry 2 into the blade dance 3 as part of a combo during fishing time. But it's actually the triangle combos that are going to trigger a lot of the corrupted mantle extra hits, which is where a lot of the DPS will come from. So you're seeing speedrunners absolutely spam the demon fangs 1, 2, and 6-fold combo beyond even normal amounts. But you're also seeing them go into archdemon mode to do demon flurry 1 into double slash, into demon flurry 1 into double slash, over and over. And you can see that you can do this really quickly, really effectively. If you've also got your corrupted mantle on at the same time, you're getting all of these extra procs, as you can see during the D6 combo. And then in this ridiculous combo with Demon Flurry 1 and double slash, you're getting an unbelievable amount of output in this case. So it's very important to know this is what you should be doing during your corrupted mantle. Absolutely spamming the D6 combo to build gauge, and then absolutely spamming the Demon Flurry double slash combo to release that demon gauge and proc loads of hits of the corrupted mantle for optimal DPS. For this concept, I would like to credit Yuki for popularizing this concept for corrupted mantle dual blades players. Yuki is a well-known speedrunner in the dual blades community and was seen doing this very clever technique during their speedruns, which then spread out with people talking about it, covering it with different builds. And so I just want to acknowledge it in this update dual blades video. It's absolutely something you want to be doing. And you can compare it to the whole Crimson Slash 1 into Spirit Blade 1 situation with Longsword, which is their best DPS combo, especially with corrupted corrupted mantle. But for us, we'll have to keep managing the demon gauge build up. Like I say, a good amount of d6 combos between your archdemon flurry double slash combo. But yeah, for those rough 2 minutes while the mantle is up and you're really ready to go, that's what you're just doing as much as you can. Alright, let's talk about the weapons and what we're doing to set this up. As you should have expected, it's artian weapons for raw and status. It's simply so effective at getting high raw while also providing status for essentially free. So in this case, we're running a paralysis pair of dual blades and a blast pair of dual blades. And they have the same setup. The production bonus is attack infusion times 3, as you should have expected for both. And then the optimal situation will be maximizing your attack boost with 1 sharpness boost to make sure you're in white sharpness and keep you there as much as you can during the fight. But we maximize how much raw we can get here by having 4 attack boosts on both weapons. So this is the goal, but be aware that, if you roll like 1 affinity, it's not the end of the world. We have about 60% reliable affinity here, so a bit more wouldn't be a bad thing while you're trying to get the perfect roll of 4 attack boost. Next up, let's take a look at the offensive decorations. For the paralysis pair of dual blades, you have a slightly different setup because obviously you'll have paralysis attack as one of your main decorations. Whereas for the blast pair of dual blades, you have blast dual for the blast attack there. Otherwise, it's the same if you can achieve that. We have critical dual 3 for 3 levels of critical boost on both of them to make our raw crits deal more damage. The final slot is about maintaining sharpness, so we're running razor sharp at 3 levels, which gives you that 50% chance for every hit not to lose sharpness. It's very significant through the course of a fight. However, if you can get that perfect decoration that also has that 1 level of handicraft, you basically secure the fact that you're not going to drop down into blue with that weapon. So when I'm running my paralysis dual blades, I'm expecting at some point to drop to blue and need to do like 1 or 2 quick whetstone uses, not even the full thing. So it's not that invasive, but if you can get the perfect decoration on both of these weapons, well, I commend you for your insane RNG. I feel very blessed to have just 1 razor sharp and handicraft decoration. But yeah, you make sure you run both of these dual blades in your setup so that when you're mid-hun, you're able to press right on the D-pad and swap a new seikret between the 2 weapons whenever you need to. Next up, let's talk about the equipment that we're running for this. This is the skill list that we have. Full weakness exploit, 3 constitution evade window, full counter strike and antivirus, and then we have the 1 adrenaline rush, burst, marathon runner, and coalescence. We achieve this by having 4-piece gore and 1 piece of arkveld, which is the chest piece. Everything else is gore, all in beta for the decoration slots. The talisman is the exploiter talisman for 2 levels of weakness exploit, and very importantly, make sure you're running corrupted mantle, obviously. Here are the decorations that we use to achieve this. As a little highlight, I run a evasion decoration in this case. For 1 more level of evade window, I find 3 levels of evade window super comfortable, where 2, it's less so. However, if you can get by with just 2 levels of evade window, no problem, then you can benefit from an extra level of something potent for your stamina, like the refresh decoration for stamina surge. It's up to you. You'll also notice that we have, say, 3 levels of constitution and not a lot to help us with stamina in general. That's because you can eat to kind of resolve this. Here's 2 meals to look at. You have meat, drool shroom, and eastern honey. It's the drool shroom that's providing black belt. And there's 2 versions, the lower and higher version, depending on what you want. At very least, the lower version will do the job, but obviously high is better. The mushrooms provide the black belt meal, reducing stamina depletion when performing stamina draining moves, such as evading, etc. So for us stamina spammers, this can be really helpful. This does mean you're not running the fluffy egg or airy egg setup, which does give you at random intervals a bit of an attack boost for a period of time, no doubt, but it's very inconsistent and unreliable, whereas that stamina recovery, super nice. So just something to highlight. Now a quick talk about a couple skills. Firstly, Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike is in this build and probably most builds that are benefiting from raw because you will get hit eventually and therefore you're going to get 25 raw for 45 seconds at level 3 of Counter-Strike, which is kind of one of the most potent DPS skills available, to the point where now we feel we just can't ignore it in our builds. Now, if you feel like, oh, well, I'm never going to get hit because I'm the perfect player ever, or I'm never going to get hit often enough for this to be consistent, then just make sure you bring the barrel bomb item. Super easy. Place it down, sends you flying, you trigger Counter-Strike for basically free, and you didn't even take damage for it really. So if you absolutely must run barrel bombs to trigger your Counter-Strike because you never get hit, well then you can. But if you really don't like the idea of Counter-Strike, then you can swap out the decorations we're using for that skill, maybe get some more stamina restore options, but we think that's just a bit of a waste. The other thing I want to address is why only one level of adrenaline rush rather than more, because you know you're triggering the perfect evade all the time as dual blades, and so you're always having adrenaline rush going. Why not commit to this more? As much as we'd like to, it doesn't have like great benefits per level, and we can only really get one more level of it, so that will be 5 more raw in this case. Instead, we choose to run 1 level of burst, which by the way at level 1 results in 8 raw, so more than 5, therefore 1 level burst, 1 level of adrenaline rush. It just works out to be more output. But yeah, it's the usual other stuff of like antivirus to help us cleanse the frenzy, get more affinity, totaling at 25% with the gore 4 piece as well, so extra raw there. And maxing out weakness exploit to give us lots of affinity, especially when we're attacking the weak points and wounds. Now let's talk about the maths for the set. We're only going to be talking about the raw in this case, obviously. And we're not going to worry about how much output you're getting specifically from blast and paralysis in this math, because it varies from monster to monster. But in the case of our weapons, with the optimal setup, you'll have a base raw of 225. Thanks to Adrenaline 1, we get 10 raw there. We're going to get 15 raw from the gore 4 piece. From Burst 1, we get 8 raw there. And from Counter-Strike 3, that's another 25 raw, bringing us to 283. We multiply this by 32% thanks to white sharpness, bringing us to 373. Like I said, we have 60% reliable affinity from 3 antivirus, 5 levels of weakness exploit, and the base artian affinity, and we have 3 levels of crit boost. This increases the crit damage by 34%, but since that's about 60% of the time, it's more like 20% of the time, or 20.4 to be specific. So we multiply our damage by that, and that brings us to 449 effective raw with this set, on top of the blast damage and the paralysis DPS windows that provides. But on the topic of Counter-Strike and how there might be some people who don't want to run that, we've got the math here to show you the difference of how much of a loss that really is. So your base raw is 225 with the perfect dual blades. Again, we're getting all that raw from Adrenaline Rush, Gore 4, Burst 1, but no Counter-Strike, so 258 in this case. Modify that by your white sharpness, the 60% affinity with the 3 crit boost, and that brings you to 410 effective raw, compared to 449 if you're using Counter-Strike. So yeah, it certainly is worth it to run Counter-Strike. But there you have it. That's the very fun duo dual blade setup for status, really offering you the best of both worlds. Lots of blast, the benefits of paralysis for DPS windows, all in a very strong setup that allows for those quick swaps between the two as you're going. And I think this is just really clever by Josh, and kind of highlights the weird lack of dual blades double status or element in the game right now, where you know you'd have one blade with one feature and the other with a different one. Kind of feels like they've missed a trick with that for the whole artian weapon crafting thing. Maybe they'll update that at some point. Either way, I hope this build was useful and you give it a try. But for now, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.